Hello and welcome to another Microsoft 365 Insights video. And in this video, we're going to focus on personalizing Microsoft Teams. So what do we mean by personalizing? Well, we're going to look at some of the settings that really help you make Teams a useful application for you. We're also going to look at structuring your Teams and channels and your chats and how you can sort of collate useful areas into groups to help you sort of keep track of the key areas you need to focus on and maybe hide some of the channels and the chats you're less frequently interacting with. So let's start with that sort of second point around managing chats, teams and channels. Now what we're looking at here is we're looking at the chat page in Teams. And this shows us our chats. That could be a single chat with a colleague. It might even show us some group chats. As you can see here, I've got a project group chat, which has got a number of members in, and I've then got some individual chats with colleagues. So that's the first thing that we're seeing in this pane here. The second thing we've got, if we scroll down, is channels. So channels are again associated to a team, and these are sort of areas for working groups to come together and collaborate and communicate around topics such as resources, which is this channel's name. Now, as you can see, I've got quite a lot of chats and I've got a lot of channels that I have access to. And this is quite a large list, so it can be quite overwhelming to work your way through it and find quickly the area you need to jump to find some content or to work or to collaborate. But there are things we can do to manage this. So the first thing we can do is we can work with something called sections. Now, sections is a relatively new concept in Teams, but one that was really sort of needed. And I think it's really helped you to organize your list of chats and channels. Now, sections, you can have as many as you want and you can name them however you want. So you're not limited to something like favorites. You can have lots of sections around topics that sort of match your use or your needs. So how do we do this? So let's say I am part of the project team. And as you can see, I have a project chat, but I've also got the project team down here that has things like a planning channel and so on. So I really want to bring that together. So I've got a single area to focus on that project. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the project team, this channel here, and we're going to click on the three dots, and we're then going to go move to. Now, when we go to move to, you'll see the first thing it says is daily. That's a section I already have. So the purpose of that is I've thrown stuff I need to get to daily into that area so that I can get to it right away. But I actually want to create a new section. Now, this new section, I'm going to call the Mark 9 project team. And I'm going to press create. Now you can see what it's done is right at the top, I now under my daily section, I've got the Mark 9 project team section. And within that, I've got the Mark 9 project team channel. So that's fantastic. So what I now need to do is let's go and start grouping other key channels and chats into that area. So I haven't got to go up and down this list every time I want to interact with the project team. So again, with chats, it's the same process. Move to, the section already exists, so we can now just do that. Again, let's go and move the planning channel as well, because that's where we've been planning the Mark 9 project. So let's go move to, and the Mark 9 project team. So let's scroll up to the top of our list now. Look, we've got a really nice section that has got a group chat and two channels, but they're all brought together in this nice area so we can focus on the Mark 9 project team and quickly jump between these key areas where there's communication and content that I need to get to quickly. So that's the first way we can go and organize our chats and our channels into useful groups so that we can move around them more quickly. Now, what can we do to take this further? Well, we can go to the three dots up here, and then we can go to Customize View. And this brings us into settings, and it brings us into the chats and channels window, where we have some really useful options that allow us to customize this further so that we can make this a really useful area for us to collaborate. So the first thing we might want to do is we might want to see message previews. So again, this is something you might be used to because previously Teams did used to show you message previews and it allowed you to sort of at a glance see what the latest chat or the latest post was about. But we can go and switch that back on. That's not a problem at all. And if we jump straight back now, we can see, yes, it's sort of spread out a bit more, but we do have the message previews again. So I can see in the group chat, the last message was from me. But again, if someone else posted, I would be able to see a quick update. So that's the first thing we can do. Something else that has done, which can be quite useful if you're used to the sort of previous way of working where teams were separated on the menu bar, is it does actually now tell you the team that channel belongs to. So yes, I can now see it's the general channel, but it's sat within the Mark 9 project team. And likewise, I can see the planning channel that we pinned is sat within the Mark 9 project team. So again, some people, you might find that useful, just as a little reminder where those channels actually exist. So let's go do that again. Let's go customize view and let's see if there's anything else useful here. So I think that's about it. The only thing that you might also want to look at is this option to hide things like filters and discover at the top of your list. And again, I'll show you what they look like in a minute. Moving down, the last option that you might want to have a look at is the option to hide inactive channels. So what Teams does is, if you have this on, it will actually say, look, you've not been into this channel for a while. Let's hide it out of your main list of chats and channels. And I think that's a good option. I'd leave that on because what that does is it stops that list becoming absolutely massive. Now, where this can happen is things like chats. When you have a Teams meeting, you get a meeting chat. That happens every meeting. So if you don't leave that option on, and let's just quickly jump back, where we've got things like chats, we can see we've got some meeting chats in here. But actually, if we didn't have that option on, we'd have tons and tons of meeting chats and they would never expire and they'd never go remove themselves. And this list would become really long and sort of complex to move between. So I'd say, again, that's a really good option, is leave that on and it will suggest, to hide areas you're not interacting with regularly. Now, if that does happen, how do you get back to those hidden areas? How do you review everything? Well, all you need to do is you need to go up to the three dots, go to your teams and channels, and this will then show you everything you have access to. And you do have options to show teams with channels which have been hidden. So I haven't actually got any hidden here, but if any had been hidden, if Teams had said, look, you've not touched that in a while, I'll go hide it. It's not gone, it's not deleted. You can come here and get back to them and start to show them again in this left-hand navigation. So that's what I'd say. There's some tips there to go and really make this a usable area for you, to group bits, to change the sort of views so that it works for you. Now, I just want to jump back to settings very quickly. So the three dots here and settings, because there are a couple of other bits I would suggest you go and look at to really personalize Teams and make it effective for you. Now, the first thing is, if we jump into chats and channels, we've gone and looked at that. But moving down, I'd look at notifications and activity. Now, really do go through here and maybe just play around with your options, because Teams, if you switch everything on, it will bombard you with notifications. You might have found that activity is constantly pinging away is too much, and you're getting a bit overwhelmed and actually missing notifications you do need to be made aware of. So I'd go through and look at all your options here and make sure you're happy with what notifications appear and where. Now, some I just want to really point out are, if we move down to replies to channel posts and bits like this, and where we look at posts in channels, is just configure these again so they work for you. Now, this option here, posts in all shown channels, you can see I've got that off. The reason I've got that off is because that would actually show you a post in every channel you're a member of. Now, you might be a member of some old channels that really you've only been given membership because you need to occasionally glance at some documentation, but for the day-to-day running, you're not that interested. So if you say, yep, show that for all shown channels, that's going to constantly be buzzing and annoying you. So again, you can configure this. It depends on how you want to work, but you might say, no, I don't want to see posts in all channels. I only want to see stuff that I'm mentioned in, and that's the sort of setup I'm using here. Now, again, if you do decide to switch this on, you can say, I'm not bothered about replies though. So I just want to see the initial post, but don't notify me every time someone replies to that post. So again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but just have a look, make sure you're happy, make sure you're not missing information or missing updates, but on the sort of the other side, you're not being bombarded with notifications. Now, if we just jump down to settings and we go to files and links, this is a really, really useful personalization piece, is configure where you open Office documents. So the default is when you install Microsoft Teams on your device, if you click on an Office document, it will open it in Teams. Now, that's great. It's really quick. It allows you to quickly jump to that content. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't give us a separate window. So what that means is if I'm now working on a document in Teams and I'm collaborating with a colleague, they message me, I'm going to jump back to chat and I'm going to lose that document. So again, that's an option there. As I'd configure, you can change that option to go and switch it to, say, open in the Office application on desktop. Now, we can do this another way. Wherever you are in Teams, if you're looking at a file, if you click on the three dots or right click, hover on open, you get the same option to change the default app. So again, I would suggest personally, I'd switch it to desktop. if you've got the full desktop versions, because then it'll go and open that document separately and you can work on it in a separate window. But you can also work on it in the full versions of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. Because again, if you're someone who uses Excel a lot, certain macros and certain sort of pieces of functionality don't work in the Teams or the browser version. So a really useful piece of personalization there is to change your default application to open Word, PowerPoint, and Excel files. And that's it. I hope you found that helpful. I hope just by implementing some of those small changes, you can really make Teams an effective application for you, make it work for you, and it allows you to get around the information and the content quicker. Thank you for watching.